Welcome in. Very special Tuesday Jock Market Power Hour for this week's Farmers Insurance Open. I'm Rick Gaiman, that right there. Joe Idoni. Joe, good to see you, bud. How are you?
Good to see you too, man. I'm doing great. Unusual circumstances, not the familiar Run Good studio. We're on a Tuesday, but same old Jock Market contest here on an IPO close.
I can hit a sand wedge to the 18th green on the South Course right now. So that's while I love being in my studio and having all my gadgets and all that stuff, there's certainly a different vibe coming from this one.
Yeah, you love to hear it. Best of luck and have fun out there this week. We're looking forward to a great 4 days of golf. I it's tough from a content perspective a little bit, but it's nice to kind of wrap this thing up from Wednesday to Saturday, and then we obviously they don't want to go up against the NFL. So hope that a lot of people rush into the market tonight. I see some guys are already very high priced, so it appears there's some people doing so.
Yeah, we might actually enter a historic power hour tonight, a historic IPO based on what I'm seeing already. We'll get to that in just a second. But if you're new or you're just getting in here, this is stock market DFS. So you can bid on shares of golfers if you're one of the high bidders when this IPO closes around 9 p.m. tonight. On the East Coast, those shares are allocated to you. That's now one side of the game, Joe, because the other side of the game is that Jock Market has released a pick'em game that you can now get involved with. So kind of two ways to go at it now. Both for me, those are like my two favorite game formats. So it works out really, really well for me, but lots of options now.
Yeah, it was very cool to kind of experiment a little bit last week during the divisional round playoffs. So that'll be back up again this week for NFL. They've got NBA. Basically, right now, they've got the four major sports. Right. We talked about it last week. Golf is going to hopefully trickle out here very soon. But an awesome way to just kind of re-engage their current user base and hopefully attract some new users with something that's a little easier to onboard with the pick'em stuff. That's really easy conceptually to understand, and then they can get into sort of hopefully we help them out with some of the IPO stuff and stock market DFS.
Yeah, so if you want to get involved in either one of those games, Power is the code you're looking for. There's a link in the description. That'll be the best deposit deposit match that you can get. So keep that in mind. Use the link in the description. I want to kind of set the stage for a little bit of a potentially historic night that we're going to get into, Joe. So let's start going through a couple of examples here. Let's start with last week's American Express. This is the way the event rolled out. Jon Rahm, the most expensive golfer in the IPO, $10.50, obviously goes on to win the golf tournament. That gets you the full $25 payout. Davis Thompson, who was very cheap last week, $3.27 per share, goes for $20 per share. So if you were holding a Davis Thompson 300-1 ticket, that did not cash, but he was great in the Jock Market. Xander Schauffele earned you $10 of profit per share, and Chris Kirk flying up the leaderboard as well, $11.56 of profit per share. So this is last week, some pretty good value, and some of the more experienced guys at the top all got the job done.
Yeah, my boy Chris Kirk's been printing money for me back-to-back weeks. Davis Thompson, interesting, like 90. You have one pre-rank and 95 pre-rank, 1 and 2. So 1673 profit for Davis Thompson, 511% ROI. Those numbers are massive. I was really quite impressed with how he competed all the way down the stretch. I mean, we were just talking before we went hot, like even a guy like Jon Rahm, who's arguably the most talented player in the world, who's, playing at the top of his game, still needs a little bit of luck, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of luck involved in everything. We were kind of talking that, yes, Jon Rahm gets lucky. Everybody gets lucky, but Jon Rahm puts himself in a position more frequently than most to accept that luck, to be there and have it fall in his way. It doesn't matter if you make an 80-foot bomb on Saturday when you're 19 strokes out of it, right? He just puts himself in a position to accept the positive variance, and he's accepting it right now.
Yeah, exactly. Got a nice little bounce on 16. Davis Thompson arguably got a very unlucky break on 17, depending on how you look at it. So that's golf. That's how things works out. But like you mentioned, he puts himself in that position plenty of times to accept a little bit of variability and flip the coin. And oftentimes it ends up on Jon Rahm. We'll see if we get it again this week.
So let's look back at last year. So Luke List, who has been horrendous since this victory. Went from $4.98 in IPO to the full $25 per share payout. Zalatoris, who lost in a playoff to List, went from $6.55 to $20. Here's that John Rahm. So there you go. The $18 payout, still good enough for John Rahm to turn you a profit. And then some value here. Cameron Tringale, who's gone now from the PGA Tour, 482 to 16. Jason Day, I think, is going to be popular tonight, Joe. He was 349 last year. Guarantee he's more expensive than that this time around.
Yeah, Jason Day. Oh, Justin Rose coming in with a lot of steam this week as well. Interesting. I look back at my notes from last year and actually rewatched like the final 5 holes. Man, Will Z, like it's only a year away. We kind of forget, but he really choked that thing away. Now, like, didn't have a birdie on the back 9, failed to birdie both the par 5s from pretty good positions, and ended up getting to a playoff. And that's what happens. Like a little bit of luck on Luke List's side. They both end up in that fairway bunker, like inches from each other, and List was able to stick an approach shot, and that's the difference between a $25 payout and a $20 payout. So we'll talk about Will Zalatoris more later a little bit, but it's fun to see those numbers and sort of recap and remember what happened last year at this event.
So what I'm setting up in a historical context, we're already getting here from the chat. Prices seem very high already. Yeah, I would agree with that. And in particular, before I even unveil the big board, I'll tell you, John Rahm's already over $11 per share tonight, Joe. And we were looking back historically at the data, and you can get this data. It's on RickRunGood.com. It's free. The most expensive golfer we've ever seen in IPO was John Rahm. It was the Mexico Open last year at $12.99 per share. He was 3.5 to 1 to win that golf tournament. He is similarly priced to win this golf tournament, a little bit longer. Is John Rahm going to break his own record tonight and smash through the $13 mark?
So I think there's two counterweights working against each other. One in his favor, and that it's Torrey Pines, right? It's his all-time favorite golf course. He's got a tremendous history here. This is John Rahm's course. The Mexico Open wasn't necessarily John Rahm's course. We had no idea what to expect, so there was that added variable in there. But when you look at the strength of the field at the Mexico Open, he was by far and away the best player teeing it up that week. And the strength of the field at the Farmers Open, at least at the top, is much stronger this week. So he has more competition, but he's also going to his favorite place in the world to play golf on an extremely hot run. So we'll see, man. I think he may not break it, but I think that he gets very, very close. I mean, realistically, $13 per share payout is 7th place. I think there's a lot of a good portion of the users, and you guys, feel free to comment in the chat, that think that might be his floor this week at 7th place.
Worth noting, the most expensive golfer ever, as we discussed, John Rahm at last year's Mexico Open, turned you a profit, doubled your money because he actually went out and won. 4 of the 6 most expensive golfers ever have turned a profit. John Rahm, if he goes for over $12.50 tonight, he will have the designation as the most expensive golfer ever, the second most expensive golfer ever, and the third most expensive golfer ever. So we got a history watch to look at tonight.
Yeah, he's definitely getting into the $12 range. He's already well past 11, so I definitely see it getting there.
Yeah, he is certainly cruising. He is at 11-11 right now, and we haven't even gotten to the stage of the show in which we unveil the big board. Okay, let's play a little bullish or bearish. So this is our opportunity to pick out 4 different golfers and take, you guessed it, either a bullish or a bearish approach on them. Let's just do Rahm. Let's just get it out of the way. Let's say it's $12.50, right? $12.50 would be the second most expensive golfer ever. What would that be? 8th or better for John Rahm? Bullish or bearish on John Rahm at $12.50?
I think even 8th at that point, you're going to lose 50 cents a share at $12.50. I saw you bring up Austin's thing. I'm with him, man. It's scary to step on the train tracks here, but I feel like you have to be bearish. Look, we've covered golf long enough to know that it's extremely hard to predict. There's 156 guys in this field. There's 2 golf courses. There's a weather wave that we may discuss later. There's a lot of good players in this field. It's just hard to make a guy 3-1 to win a golf tournament, or make a guy break even position 7th place or better. I can't wrap my head around it on a professional golf level. So I'm going to reluctantly say bearish. What about you?
Buddy, I'm like, we're getting John Rahm pretty wrong here, and I'll be bearish again. I agree with you. If he's gonna have to finish 8th or better in a full field at a golf course that, yes, he's been awesome at, but there are some ways that you can struggle here, and we've seen a lot of there's not a lot of elite course history at Torrey Pines. You've got a little bit of a course rotation. You can be on the wrong side of the draw. I cannot imagine if you did this 1,000 times, you would be profitable buying shares of him at $12.50.
Yes, I can't imagine that over 50% of those 1,000 simulations, he's going to finish 7th or better. It's just hard. We haven't seen that like kind of ratio since one player ever. And I know that he's on an extremely hot run, but it's hard to put him in that class at this point.
Yeah, that's the other thing. He's trying to, now he doesn't need to win here in the jock market. Obviously, that's kind of one of the best parts about this, but he kind of needs to get close to that to return a positive value or a profit. And the streak that he's doing is like, it's only been done 18 times in, winning 3 in a row, 18 times on the PGA Tour. Tiger has 14 of them. This is like, there's a reason this doesn't happen. And I'm not saying he can't because the others haven't, but man, I'll tell you what, if on Saturday night he hoists another trophy, I will be super, super smitten and super impressed with it, but I will have zero money because of it.
Exactly. Me too. I'll be in the same boat, man.
Justin Thomas is next. So looking at his fair value for tonight, JT is the 7th pre-ranked golfer. His fair value is $7.36. He'll probably go for more than that, but that's about a 20th in the fair value. Let's bump him up to $8, $8.50. That's like 16th or better. Bullish or bearish on JT?
Bearish as well. This one's a little bit scarier to me because I feel like we're almost at that point with Justin Thomas where he's in a buy low position where some of the public perception has maybe started to fade, but the numbers kind of bear that out in terms of a ball striking and approach. I mean, you see it right there. 3 out of the last 4 losing strokes on approach. That's his strength, right? That's his bread and butter. And when that's not going well for him, we know that he's consistently loses strokes putting. We know that's not his strength, but he can win. He can be that doesn't matter if he's striking the ball at a Justin Thomas level. We just haven't seen that. I don't love that. We essentially have the T25 at the Century, which wasn't a great performance for him. We just haven't seen him a lot since then. I don't know too much about his course history, but he doesn't seem like he's been great on the West Coast. I'll be bearish. What about you?
Yeah, I'm probably more bullish than you. I'm definitely more bullish than you are. I think there is an argument to be made that we are very much approaching what you mentioned, that buy low opportunity. And I really don't think we're going to see it coming, right? Where he's just going to snap off and he's going to win one of these golf tournaments. And it's going to be, we should have seen this coming. It's Justin Thomas because his 100 round baseline is better than like everybody but 3 guys in this field's 100 round baseline. So I really do think that we're not going to see it coming. He's going to win one of these golf tournaments, and I'd rather be early than late on him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's go for a little bit further down the board. Taylor Montgomery, who, speaking of guys who have like never lost anybody any money, Taylor Montgomery is a printing machine. If you are using him in jock market with all of the top 15 finishes, it was even better than that at the American Express last week. It was a 5th place finish. This guy's a moneymaker, Joe. Bullish or bearish?
Yeah, 8 of 9 starts so far in the new season. He has been profitable for you. The average ROI within that is pretty astounding as well at over 50%. He's just been great. And, it was like you hated to see what happened to him on 17 after finding himself in contention, but that's kind of what happens to young players, right? It wasn't overly shocking. I thought that he handled it very well. I'm impressed with virtually all aspects of his game. He's shown to me, and I don't know if the stats totally bear this out, but from watching him and from an eyeball test, he passes all the areas pretty much for me. I think the short game could use some work, but he's more than just a really, really good putter. And I think that that's going to bear out over the next year. And he's going to continue to tee it up like almost every week. We talked season long fantasy, and like, I don't know when this guy's going to take a week off. I saw earlier today, he got a sponsor invite to the Waste Management. So he's going to keep playing, and I think he's going to keep playing well. I'll say bullish.
Yeah, I think we have to. So yes, he is off to a historically good start in the putting category. Like no one's denying that. I think what we also have to realize is that he is not a one-trick pony, right? Denny McCarthy or Lucas Herbert, these guys that can only do one thing and they do it at an elite level. He's an elite putter, and he's a very, very good driver of the golf ball, right? He gained 2 strokes off the tee at the American Express. That's only 2 measured rounds, 2.5 at the Sony Open, +3 at the CJ Cup and the Shriners. He's gaining much more than he's losing. Yes, he's a little bit iffy with the second shot, but if you're the best putter in the world and you're good off the tee, you can be a little bit iffy on the second shot and you can get away with it. So I'm going to be bullish until something tells me otherwise with Taylor Montgomery. How about this one? And we have to scroll very far down the board for this one. 65th in the pre-ranks tonight is Ben Griffin. Ben Griffin, his fair value is, well, he's already almost over it. So let's bump him up. Let's bump him up to like a $4.50 fair value. That's 38th or better. Bullish or bearish on Ben Griffin?
Okay, at 450, at that point, I'll say bearish. He's on an incredibly hot run. He's averaging well over 100% ROI. I think he's been maybe the best guy so far this season. $3.28 average IPO in the last 10 starts. He's paying out $6.83. He's been a stud. But when you look at, I think, some of his attributes and where he is best suited, I think it's some of the courses where you've seen him have success. And I don't think that necessarily a 7,700 yards Torrey Pines South is the ideal course for Ben Griffin. It's more of a Taylor Montgomery type course than it is a Ben Griffin. I'll say if he gets to 450, I'll go opposite the trends here and say bearish.
Yeah, so here's what Joe was alluding to. So this is just everybody in the field last 10 rounds, or excuse me, last 10 starts. Ben Griffin's your best player. He's returning 133% ROI, 328 to 683 per share. That's awesome. You look at his profile and you see, okay, the only place he struggles really is around the green, which can be problematic around here, but the rest of this is so sharp. He's clearly kind of figured something out in his game. I think I'm more bullish than you are here. I'll take a bullish stance on Ben Griffin.
Yeah, he's been great around the green, which can save him. When I look at some of those off the tee and approach numbers, they just don't come at courses that dictate the same things off the tee that I think Torrey could. So I think when you go from Sony to Amex and even Century and some of the courses like RSM and Mayakoba that you play through the fall, and then you get here, it feels like at times it can be a little bit of a different animal for a lot of those guys that had some success in the fall swing. And really from here on out to the Masters, we've got some definite big boy golf courses.
Yeah, we do. Now, before we unveil the big board, remember, so by my clock, 8:34 p.m. Eastern time, so we got about 25 minutes or so until this IPO closes. So those bids are rolling in. We'll run it through. We got plenty of time. But you mentioned something at the top that I think we should look through, and it's this potential weather draw here. And when you get a game like Jock Market, this becomes a lot more interesting because you could do things live as opposed to us just opining on it on a Tuesday evening and guessing and hoping that we're right. Is you can actually follow this a little bit closer. So here's where I'm at right now. It appears, and I think this is what everybody's kind of getting all hot and bothered by, the Thursday afternoon winds that could be rolling in, where you're getting these 14, 15, 16-mile-an-hour winds, while the rest of the week is fairly benign. I think, Joe, that's what everybody's kind of worried about. They're looking at their fantasy lineup, saying, should I stack the guys that are playing on Thursday morning, which would be Wednesday PM, Thursday AM? How are we treating this in terms of jock market?
Right. So I think the traditional AM, afternoon, PM wave that you would consider is a little bit mitigated here just because where the tee times are sort of tightened up, right? They're not so much spread throughout the day due to the fact they have two courses. Now, the second part of that is the question that I don't necessarily know the right answer to, which is, would you rather play the North course, which is the far shorter and the far easier course in 15 to 20 mile an hour winds, or would you rather take on the beast that is the South course in the really tough wind? I don't know that there's a right answer to that. I'm guessing you probably don't either. I would think for me, I would rather play the shorter course with the heavy winds, but it can go. I think that depends on the player, and that's really tough to analyze from a group jock market perspective.
Player preference.
Yep.
Right. I mean, some guys like the challenge. I mean, think about what did JT do on, I don't even know what day it was, but the third round of the Players when those winds were horrible and he pulls out every shot and shoots a 66 or whatever it was. And then it was absolute perfect conditions the next day. And he could barely break par. Right. I mean, it's just good luck trying to figure this out. Right. Good luck. I think everybody kind of reacts to it a little bit differently, but yeah, I mean, the good news is you don't have to decide right now, right? We can kind of keep an eye on this and we can start to see. You're going to know, right? You're going to know when the first handful of groups go through and you're starting to see, okay, the North course looks like it might be playing X number of shots under par, the South, whatever. And I think for the really diligent users, you don't have to do anything crazy. You can kind of take action as it comes to you.
Yep, exactly. Beauty of jock market. You summed it up right there. You can kind of play it by ear, so to speak, and see how things are sort of unfolding, and then make a decision based on the players that you have or the players that you want to target. And you can look at some of their history. Like you mentioned, a guy like Justin Thomas, and some players really do have a bona fide history of toughing it out, and you throw some hectic conditions at them and they sort of embrace that. And those are the type of players that I think you may want to target for Friday.
Power is the code. It's no longer just stock market DFS. The pick'em games are live for the 4 major sports. Golf coming very, very soon. Get involved. Get your deposit bonus. It helps us out. It helps you out. Honestly, it's a win-win for everybody. So go and take care of it. We come and do these usually every Wednesday night, but Tuesday night on this week. Let's unveil the big board here. And Joe, to absolute no one's surprise, Jon Rahm is the most expensive golfer. He is at $12.12 per share. That is already, that is already the 6th most expensive golfer to ever walk in the jock market. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, and we got 20 minutes left, bud. 2 minutes makes a big difference in the jock market. So he's got plenty of time left to sort of eclipse that. I'm seeing now 12:48, so he got another bump. It's just when does
he's going to do it? He's going to do it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
$12.99 is the number we're looking for. If he gets to $13, it'll break the record for the most expensive golfer ever. Yeah, $12.48. I'm refreshing. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of money coming into this market here. I think a lot of people kind of see this as one of the starts of the season because Xander's already up to 901. Finau and Zalatoris are already at 870 at 816. There's money piling into this market.
Yeah, and I think users are smart, right? They're spending a lot of money at the top, which I think is wise at Torrey Pines, right? It's a tournament which we've seen a history of the cream sort of rising to the top. It has a way of differentiating the A players from the C plus players just because it's brutal. The rough is hard. It's super long. It's demanding. It requires execution over and over again. which is very difficult for a lot of the sort of mid-tier PGA Tour players. And it's a place where guys like Zalatoris and Xander and Morikawa and Rahm can really accentuate their differentiator, which is, tee to green game, long iron play. Where are you at on Xander? Because we really didn't know what to think. He was great last week. I thought he was awesome. He putted pretty well. Obviously, the albatross was electric. Are you concerned at all about him now going back-to-back weeks at a longer, potentially a course with some rough to deal with, which isn't quite the situation that he had on hand at the Amex?
I'm just kind of in the middle, lukewarm maybe on Xander. Certainly cooler than most. I think that the dirty little secret here is for a long time, Xander sucked here.
I know, right? He did.
Like, let's not forget that too much.
And he was always so popular here.
Yeah, like he's got I think he's got 3 good starts in a row, but there was like 5 of his first 6 were horrible. And there is definitely something to going back to where you live and having a lot of other responsibilities and the added, I don't even know if it's pressure. It's just like there's just a lot going on. And when you combine that with obviously an inflated by at least, listen, that I understand an albatross is an incredible moment. He was not trying to hit that shot. That was a mistake. I know. He pushed that about 20 feet right of where he wanted it to be. He was 6 inches away from hitting that in the water and making a double. That's a 5-shot swing from like 6 inches of carry. So like I'm ready to pump the brakes a little bit. He's probably gonna be okay, but we're already asking him to finish 14th or better or whatever. Like I'm probably not gonna get there because he's gonna be too expensive for me.
Yeah, I was watching it live, and like you were the first person I thought of because I'm like, I'm just thinking like he mishit that so bad, and that's gonna totally throw off all of his strokes gained numbers.
Yeah,
like his proximity numbers went through the roof. His approach, like it went nuts based off that one shot, which he did not hit to the spot he was trying to hit.
His reaction was like, oh, yeah, totally. please go, and it carried by 1 inch and goes in the hole. Sick golf. Game. Very sick game. Here's the rest of the board. I actually have not heard as much about Tony Finau as I thought we were going to hear about Finau. I think maybe it's because it's the Rahm stuff, because it's the Xander stuff, because Will's trying to break through after losing. Like, there's just a lot of other stuff happening. Finau's been pretty great here. And Finau's been like basically second to Jon Rahm in last 24, last 36, whatever you want to look at. This would be, I think he's a pretty interesting buy tonight.
I do too. I think this place sets up perfect for Tony Finau and what his strengths are as a player. That's kind of shown out over the course of some of his course history. When you look back at that here, by most measures, he's had a disappointing couple starts at the Century and at the American Express. But you look at his ROI in Jock Market, minus 1%, minus 4%. Those aren't killers whatsoever, because when Tony Finau is on his game and he finishes first or second, you're doubling or tripling your money there. So even in what is considered by most who bet on him outright, who maybe took him in other fantasy formats as a disappointing T16 last week, to only lose 4% ROI on that is nothing when you look at the long term and what he's capable of and the potential upside. So will be interesting. It seems like at this point, it looks like he's third on the board in terms of pricing. So it seems like some people are ready to get some shares of Big Tony.
All right, let's start rattling off a couple of these guys here. The $7 range: Morikawa, Homa, Sungjae, Justin Thomas, Taylor Montgomery. We talked about 2 of them, Thomas and Montgomery. Any leans on Sungjae, Homa, or Finau? Do you think any of those guys will make your portfolio tonight?
I like Morikawa, actually. I bet Colin this week. I think that he's the best long iron player in the world when you look from 150 to 250 yards. It's by a decent margin that he's the best player. I think that his driving accuracy, while he's not incredibly long, I think that his accuracy actually will help him out here because he'll be able to hit more greens in regulation if he's from the fairway more, and he'll be able to use those 4 and 5 irons. His around the green game is spotty, I know it, but it doesn't get much worse than what it was that 4th round at the Century Tournament of Champions. I think that he was better than that. If he gets that win, I think that he's higher priced this week than we're going to get him now. So, he folded on Sunday, but let's not necessarily dwell on the past. I think that he's in good form. I think that he's put in the required work in the offseason to get better at what he was deficient at. And we'll see if that pans out this week.
Two things. I've also bet him. One is those areas where he was horrid around the greens in the Bahamas. Not going to happen here, right? Those were tight lies with grain up against you. Like, this is thick, rough, where that generally helps those guys. The other thing is, and I'm trying to remember back to last year, this rough looks super lush out here. It looks super thick. I mean, they got a ton of rain in January, and they got it like every 3 days. It was like a consistent schedule, and this stuff is super thick out here, and it feels a lot thicker than in other years that I remember. I think playing out of the fairway is going to end up being pretty critical. I agree. I bet Colin will work out, and I'm hoping my idea of how he gets to the top of the board ends up being correct.
Yeah.
6s and 5s. McNeely, Day, JJ Spawn, who's like been piling up top 20 finishes, Hideki, Siwoo, and then we rounded out with like Pendrith and Keegan and Dietrich and Wyndham Clark. Anybody or anybody's here that you think is interesting?
Yeah, I'm with Hideki. I bet Hideki. We'll see what that price point gets at, because I think a lot of people are in on him this week. I think there's very good reason to be. I worry that he hasn't gained strokes off the tee in seemingly forever. But he's coming back to the Farmers, where is another course that is just tailor made to his sort of skill set. I like his upside. He seems to always be a little bit underpriced, and I think this is a good spot where he's coming in prepared and ready. The other interesting one to me is Siwoo Kim. We'll see what his price point ends at, but he's been so good on approach. Where did he finish last week? Let me pull it up here.
In the jock market or in the tournament?
In jock market. So he made 13% ROI at T22. So consecutive weeks in that's coming off of a victory when I thought that it wasn't a great buy spot for him. I like Siwoo here. Jason Day is the one that is concerning to me. I just feel like there's so much of it on the course history narrative, which I don't put as much emphasis on at the Farmers as maybe some other people may have. So I'm a little bit more tepid on J Day. Where are you at with him?
I'm pretty bullish on him, quite honestly. Yeah, I mean, he's talked a lot about just being healthy for the first time in a while, and he kind of took a lot of time off, and it's showing in the stats, it's showing in the results. His game is always pretty sharp around here. I'm fairly bullish on him. The other thing is, for Hideki, I definitely lump Hideki into that Justin Thomas category, which is like, hey, they haven't been that good recently, but when you start zooming out and you start saying who are the best players, and you're going to a place that rewards the best players, they are definitely great options.
Yeah.
Let's start finding some value here. And I'm going to sort this by pre-rank, Joe, and I'm just going to go like 40 and below. So this is like your Nick Hardy's, I actually just saw Nick Hardy in the lobby. Ben Taylor, Taylor Moore, I should ask him how he's feeling. Luke List is here. Adam Schenk is here. Are there any of these guys that are currently hovering around the $3 mark that you think are worth a click?
Yeah, I mean, just right outside of 40 is my guy, Will Gordon. I do like him. I think that he sets up well this week. Kurt Kitayama is another one that I'm interested in, that I have favorited. Steven Yeager's been playing really well. I think that he isn't getting quite the love because there have been some other guys who have really sort of popped lately, but there's definitely a few in there. Davis Thompson is back here at 351, coming off an incredible week with over 500% ROI. So there are some options here. Your guy, Robbie Shelton, is another one. I know I'm just kind of naming names, but there have been a lot of players who have been on a decent little run, and we'll see if they can carry it onto, the type of course and the type of requirements and stress that Torrey Pine South can put you under.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at Yeager because he's got, if you look at his results, it's like T33, T40, T9, T28. And in most scenarios, that's not super great. In the jock market, it's pretty good. He breaks even a lot. And then when he goes and finishes, T18 or something, you're getting a pretty decent return there because he's never too expensive. His average IPO is $3.92. So, I mean, worst case scenario, he's been breaking you even, and then he's got a little bit of upside on the back end of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Our guy, as I go kind of further down into the next page, even, we've talked about him quite a bit, but came off a disappointing week last week. But I think it's another decent spot for Tyson Alexander at 244 per share. I just really like the upside in the long term. You look at long drivers of the ball too. Callum Tarrant's there at $3 per share right now. Another good one, who kind of popped last week. Where's this guy at? Matty Schmid. Did you catch any of him last week?
No. Let me pull his profile up and I'll find out what he's going for right now. But yeah, he got hot and made a run at it. And he's actually, so here's the other thing. So he played well last week, T6 at the American Express. He was one of the ones who played in December in that South African Open Championship, finished fourth there. Now he bookended that with missed cuts, but there's upside here. He can get hot and get to the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, only RickRunGood.com is going to get you the
strokes
gain data on the Investec South African Open.
Let's go.
He's what really surprised me about him? I think second or third in driving distance. I didn't really realize how much of a bomber he is, but he launches it off the tee. And of course, Torrey has always shown a correlation between driving distance and success. So we'll see if coming off of his career best performance can bring some confidence into this week, currently at like $3 a share.
Torrey loves a bomber. Jon Rahm, as of right now, we've got about 9 minutes to go, is at $12.48. So that was the number, Joe, right? That like 5 minutes ago, it's where he's been stuck there. So we will see if he can climb. If he gets the $13 even, it's the most expensive ever. Xander, everybody's back in. $9.39 right now with another tier of Finau, Zalatoris, and Morikawa right behind. The sevens are Justin Thomas, Max Homa, Sung J M, Taylor Montgomery. And then you get into some of these fun guys like, Mav McNeely at $6.66. We talked about Jay Rose and Keegan Bradley here. So this is really shaping up. If you want to flip it around, Joe, and look at the top 10 golfers, that pre-rank matters. That's what's going to break ties here in the jock market. The cheapest one you can get is Keegan Bradley, which is kind of surprising considering his ball striking prowess, the idea that he's always been a very good total driver of the golf ball. He's got a great pre-rank. That's actually pretty, he won like 4 starts ago.
Yeah, I always forget that because you look at kind of he was on this incredibly scorching hot, like approach and ball striking run, sort of through like the US Open there, which he was like first or second in approach and ball strike. That's kind of tailed off, but he still has that victory. He still has the T5 at the Sanderson Farms. He's still got a 21st at the CJ Cup. He's a top 10 pre-ranked player, currently sitting under $6 per share. I know that he doesn't have great numbers on POA, but yeah, he's certainly the best value, I think, price guy on the board right now.
Looking a little bit, just a little bit further down the board, trying to see if anybody else sticks out to me. Sahith is here. I never get him right, Joe. He's at $5.66 a share right now. It's about 70 cents below his fair value. Do you want to take a crack at getting this guy right?
I don't like this spot for Sahith. I like the West Coast for Sahith. I don't love this spot, and he could totally prove me wrong, but I worry about the inaccuracies off the tee. You had mentioned from being at the course that the rough is thicker and juicier than normal, so I think that does put a little bit more less emphasis on just bombs away anywhere, and it's going to be beneficial to come in from the fairways. All right.
About that time, Joe. I got to let you go do your thing. I got 8:53 p.m. Eastern time, so Joe will go and try to steal golfers from you, honestly. He'll go put his bids in. You can do the same, and we'll see what happens when the dust settles. Good luck, Joe.
See you in a few, bud.
All right, so I'll take you the rest of the way here, and I'll make sure that I have the most up-to-date numbers. And if you are looking to get involved in either this or the contest that they have where you pay, $50, you get 1,000 chips, everybody's on a level playing field and there's payouts, that's available. You want to get involved in NFL Pick'em, NBA Pick'em, That's available. Use the code POWER, go get your deposit match, and start making that money. Jon Rahm has moved just a bit. 3 cents since the last time we saw him. $12.51 per share, which is now, let's just get this over with and see. I imagine it's going to be one of the top. Yeah, so we are at 12. Oh, well, hold on. We'll do it this way. Yeah, he's the second most expensive golfer we've ever seen. He just tied his own record for number 2. So now he has the 3 most expensive instances of the jock market. Xander Schauffele is $9.55 right now. He is coming off, obviously, a big return, 130% at the American Express, where he was basically $2 cheaper. Now everybody going back to the San Diego Kid. Zalatoris finished runner-up last year to Luke List, coming off of a loss at the American Express, but people are buying right back in at $8.76 a share. Here's Colin, $8.10. Where's JT? $7.99. So keeping an eye on those two. Keeping an eye on Hideki. Hideki's at $6.33. You lump him and Justin Thomas together. The recent form, not there. Long-term stuff, absolutely there. Let me refresh this and make sure we have the best possible numbers, the most accurate numbers. We got about 5 minutes to go, maybe less than that. Rahm at $12.52. No surprise. Here comes Tony Finau, $9.13. So Tony Finau, as Joe mentioned, when he loses, it's very, very small. -4, -1, -7, boom, plus 156% at the Houston Open. He is there. We didn't really talk about Sungjae Im. Sungjae is the 8th pre-ranked golfer. He's coming off a win at the American Express. That actually snapped a 5-event losing streak for Sungjae Im, if you can believe it. So Sungjae back on winning ways, trying to get a little bit of momentum around Torrey Pines, trying to tap into that ball striking. We'll see if he'll be able to do it. Matt McNeely is the best putter on POA since the start of 2020, about a stroke per round. And you can see in the results, it's really paying off this fitness regimen he's going through, this work he's putting in, because he's piling up top 25 finishes. He's been a winner in the jock market in 5 of his last 6. The only loss was a T27 in Houston, where he lost you 14%. Here comes JJ Spawn. That's a sentence I'm not sure I ever thought I was going to say. 4 consecutive wins, 6 of his last 7, 4 straight top 15 finishes. Kind of feels like a big park for him, I'm thinking, but you play out of the fairway, you do other things well, maybe you can find yourself on the path to success. Let's go a little bit down the board. Where can we find a little bit of value? I'll tell you what, I'm buying back in on Adam Hadwin. People ready to discard Adam Hadwin, the Desert Fox after the American Express. Got you 45% ROI last week. Maybe don't get rid of him just yet. Winner in 3 straight, 4 of his last 5. Including a T7 at the Houston Open where he gained 7 strokes on approach. Maybe don't throw him away just yet. Hayden Buckley, don't throw him away. Last time we saw him, 321% ROI. This is probably a better course for him than Waialae is. I don't know. We'll see. But he drives it so well. He's an elite driver of the golf ball. We know the ball striking is there. I worry a little bit about the short game. I worry a little bit of putting on Poana. But I can worry because he's $4.86 a share. I'm not paying $15 a share for him. Let's give it a refresh. 8:58 p.m. Eastern time by my clock. So we've got maybe 2 minutes here. Maybe 2 minutes to go until we find out how deep people are going to go on Jon Rahm. 12.55 is the answer right now. Will he get to $13? I don't know. He's stalling out a little bit. We'll see if those last-minute snipers come in and push him up over the $13 mark. Zalatoris leapfrogs. Oh, no, let me turn this around and look at it the other way. Zalatoris gets to the $9 range, but he is now with Tony Finau and Xander Schauffele. He is not alone. Max Homa at 8 even. That is the most expensive that he has been since the Shriners, where he lost you 10%, coming off the only start of his calendar year, the Century Tournament of Champions. That was a T3, 219% ROI. Will Gordon gets a big bump here to 471. He's now over his fair value for tonight, just by a little bit of a hair. Ricky Fowler still lagging behind his, about 50 cents or so for Ricky. Loser last week at the American Express. Loser at the CJ Cup, loser in 3 of 4, but a couple of big wins around that if you're willing to take on the risk. We are probably going to close at any second. I'm going to refresh the big board one more time and see if I can get the most up-to-date numbers before we do, because it's 8:59. John Rahm is moving, but not fast enough to get to the record. 1266 for Rahm. That's 33 cents away from the most expensive golfer we've ever seen. Xander and Finau right behind. Sung Jae got to the $8 mark. JT's kind of just lagging behind a little bit. You can still get a $5.50 Keegan Bradley, who's the 9th pre-ranked golfer, who's well below his fair value, asking him to finish like 30th or better. I would probably do that if I were you right now, because it's 9 p.m. Eastern time, and I imagine this thing is over. Okay.
Shut it down.
Shut it on down. I was going to say, I'm looking at my clock. It says 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
We got to be done here. We got to be done. Wow. There's a lot of, I don't know, but I'm going to say there's a lot of money in this market.
Yes. Just a lot of very high priced guys. So we'll see how it kind of shakes out. I'm pulling my guys over into the holdings now, and we can go through who I got.
Yeah. Before you do that, reminder, links in the description. It's power. It's very simple. You can play any type of game. You could help us out. You could help yourself out. Use the code. Go support Jock Market. They support us. Great part of the community. Joe, you mentioned it. You've been killing it with Chris Kirk. Tom Kim made you a lot of money last week. Let's find out who you are riding this week at the Farmers Insurance Open.
All right, Colin Morikawa.
Yeah,
877. I after Morikawa, I know I said I was bearish. I changed my mind. I got shares of Justin Thomas.
That's fair.
It just felt good. I think he's got to finish like 16th or better to pay that off. Hideki, 675, felt like too cheap for Hideki. You almost blew up my spot here on Adam Hadwin in the $5 range and Justin Rose in the $5 range. Also Cam Davis, 516, Matty Schmid at 336, and Rick, I shorted a player.
Oh no, who was it?
You may need to check me into an insane asylum.
Don't say it was John Rahm.
It was John Rahm.
Oh my God. I can tell you from my experience in shorting, this might not end well for you, friend.
This might not end well. 1266. If John Rahm finishes 8th place this week, I'll make 66 cents a share and moving down from 8th place. So it's going to be a scary, nerve-wracking, stressful couple days for me, but we'll see. I kind of just did it for the fun of it.
So let's talk through the mechanics of this. Let's say Joe bought or shorted 10 shares of John Rahm at 1266. So if John Rahm, what'd you say, finishes 8th, that's 66 cents because you pay out 12. Okay. So Joe would make $6.60. If John Rahm, for whatever reason, like misses the cut and gets the $1 per share payout, Joe would get $11.66 per share, which would be $110 in return on this short. If John Rahm wins, Joe's got to pay the difference off the $25 at the top. So it would be what, $12.34 a share, something like that.
Exactly, $12.34 a share if he ends up winning. You know, if he finishes 5th, it's a modest loss. But like if he finishes like 16th this week, it'll hopefully be a big return for me. So we'll see how it works out. We talked about being bearish on him. I just felt like he's the second highest price ever. I see our guy Austin is in on the short as well. So we'll see, man. Fingers crossed. It's going to be a stressful couple days out there at Torrey.
Joe's portfolio: Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Hideki Matsuyama, Adam Hadwin, Justin Rose, Cam Davis, Matty Schmid, and a short of John Rahm.
Yikes.
Let's look through the chat here. Brett got Homa, Woodland, and Davis Thompson. Lost out on Colin late. JG Funk got Homa, Decky, Keegan, Hadwin, Davis Riley, Aaron Rye, and Kevin Yu. Brent got, it's a big one. Spawn English, Riley, Smalley, Steele, Rye, Hardy, Streelman, Davey Thompson, Ryder, Champ, Han, Novak, and the real C Young, which I'm assuming is Carson Young, who is not the real C Young, but that's okay. That is an interesting portfolio because Brent is, I don't want to say bottom dwelling, but like these are cheapies.
Yeah, interesting to not kind of go at the top, but it all depends on price. So each one of those guys, like we talk about, is going to have a break even point, probably somewhere in like the 30 to 45th place range. And if he gets a couple to perform and slip inside the top 10, he's probably going to do pretty well. Good luck to you, bud.
Let us unveil the big board with the final pricing. John Rahm did not break the record tonight, but he got pretty darn close. $12.66 a share, second most expensive ever. So he is now number one, number two, and number three. He has to finish, what did we say, seventh or better to return a profit here. So that's what John Rahm is up against. There's a big gap, about $3 to Xander, Tony, and Zalatoris. Feels fine, Joe, right?
Yeah.
Morikawa, JT, Sungjae, Homa feels fine. Say it every week. Hideki at 675 feels pretty good.
Yeah, Hideki feels like the one that is kind of missed, but there's good reason for it. Like he hasn't shown the ability, like he doesn't have many top 20s in there. So we'll see. I think this is a good spot where he can turn it around, but I think from a talent standpoint, he does feel like the best value on the board right there.
Little surprised Jason Day didn't go for more, but he went over his fair value. He's got a pretty bad pre-rank. That's probably fair. I'm very interested to see how Taylor Pendrith shakes out. I think this is a pretty good spot for him.
Definitely.
$5.50. I'm just trying to see if there's any big differences between price and fair value. It's pretty efficient here. It looks pretty good, Joe.
Yeah, who was that 18? Harris English. Yeah, I guess it's probably a pre-rank that was kind of off. Ricky at 19 is probably a pre-rank that's a little off. But I think like when you look at the top of the board, yeah, I think it's a lot of groupthink and the idea that 7,700 plus yards, you've got to really be able to have some carry distance off the tee. When you look at guys like, Pendrith and the other guys at the top there, there's definitely an advantage to being a bomber.
Get involved. Use the code POWER. There's a link in the description. Go now play the live version of this. Go buy, go short, go sell, go enjoy this Wednesday through Saturday tournament. Play your pick'ems. This is going to be a great week. It's going to end on Saturday. There's going to be NFL Sunday for people to go nuts with. This is a great week.
Yeah, good luck to everyone. I hope you make some money in the Farmers Jock Market this week, and you can roll it over into either the NFL Jock Market or try a little pick 'em out this week. Let us know what you think of it. I think it's a very cool way. I like keeping it simple and just doing the two guys. Pick the two, bet one to win three. So you want to put a 50 to win 150, 100 to win 300. It's just a nice way to kind of not have too many variables in that parlay where it gets kind of reachy. But let us know what you guys think about that. And if you have any feedback, of course, shoot it our way.
Reachy parlays. That's my specialty. Okay. Joe is available on Twitter at TorPicks. You can find me at RickRunGood. This has been your Tuesday Jock Market Power Hour for the Farmers Insurance Open. Good luck.